Some games come along every once in a while and become a huge inspiration for games that follow. Dark Souls was a challenging medieval game that forced players to stop and take every encounter with an enemy or a boss seriously and carefully, or success wouldn't be obtained. It has since then been the influence of a ton of games, including games like Salt and Sanctuary and The Surge. Castlevania Symphony of the Night was a game that came along and mixed elements of previous titles in its series with elements of exploration and non-linear gameplay from the Metroid game series. This was such a hit that it spawned a new genre title, the Metroidvania game. Wonderful games like Hollow Knight and Odalus the Dark Call are part of this category. Unworthy is a game that has taken both of the styles of those games and meshed them together. It was developed by Alexander Kuzmanovic Games and released on PC May 29, 2018. So did this indie game pull off this fusion and is worthy of praise? Well, let's find out. Unworthy begins with the protagonist strung up to a wall and being whipped in a dungeon of some sort. They are freed quite quickly from this torment and make their escape. The control layout is quite simple. You can attack, roll, heal, open the map, switch between two equipped weapons, and bring up an inventory menu. There are a few bars at the top left of the screen, a health bar, stamina bar, and an experience bar. Each attack or roll will deplete the stamina bar, so it must be watched carefully, and each move made by the character must be thought out or death will happen very quickly. The experience bar will fill up more and more with each enemy destroyed, and once it's full, then the protagonist will level up. This will refill health all of the way and makes the character's stats slightly rise. Rolling is also very important because it has invincibility frames and is vital for moving through enemy and boss attacks without taking damage. The starting area has the main character attacking with chains, in a manner much like Kratos from the God of War series. This area teaches how to use lifts and switches because Unworthy has an interesting twist. The protagonist can't jump. And as bad as this might sound, it really isn't a bad thing at all, and I believe it helps the level design stand out as being very well thought out. After exiting the dungeon, the character enters the harsh world full of filth and sin to be eradicated. They now wield a sword and shield, making them a force to be reckoned with. If the shield symbol in the top left corner of the screen is full, then one attack can be blocked. This can really save your ass. Each weapon discovered throughout the game has a special use like this. Some weapons help you more in some areas than others, and I really enjoyed playing around with them. After an enemy is slain, you acquire their sin, and this can be used to either buy items from merchants or to help level up certain attributes to the protagonist, like having more armor, doing more damage, or having more health. Each time a boss is defeated, this will give your character a point that can raise these attributes. If the protagonist dies, then they drop all of the sin that they have been collecting. If you can make it back to where you died, then you can retrieve all of the lost sin. If death happens twice though, the sin is gone forever. Death can happen in just a few short moments, so this can lead to some intense backtracking. Thankfully, there are points that can be used as a checkpoint. There are fires burning throughout the land, and you can press up at any of them to make a respawn point if you happen to perish. However, if these are used, all regular enemies that were slaughtered will now be back. Relics can also be found and have pros and cons to using them. You have slots that they can be equipped in, and most of them are actually pretty useful. Bosses are called filth and must be cleansed from the land. Most of each one defeated will drop an item that is useful going forward. I had plenty of aha moments whenever I got a new item or weapon that unlocked previously unreachable areas, and it felt good to go back to them and find out what was to be discovered next. The boss fights are much like puzzles, as well as involving skill to be defeated. They can be quite challenging at first, but it feels great to put them down for good and cleanse the filth from the land. Enemy variety is really great as well, with all the types encountered feeling very different in not only how they move, but also what attacks and defenses they have. And I like that aspect of Unworthy a lot. Now, I'm not going to spoil a lot about the items or bosses, because I think those things should be seen firsthand to get the most out of the game. I feel like it would take a lot of the fun out of the game to see too much of it. I have to give props for the level design because the areas throughout the world really mesh together quite well, and I wanted to explore every inch of Unworthy so I could get every item, relic, and help every NPC. And even though the game can be punishing sometimes when exploring, it also made me want to explore even more when I found something new or opened a new area. It just kept drawing me in. The graphics are pixelated and are done in black and white. This reminds me of my younger days when I spent time playing games on a Game Boy in my grandmother's house. And although some might be turned away by this graphical choice, I enjoyed it a lot. It was so different, and I applaud the developer for choosing to take this route with the graphics. It forced my imagination to run wild with filling in the blanks of what I couldn't see with the protagonist, enemies, and bosses. The sounds and music are very well done. I love the music done by Brian Havey. He did a great job of creating beautiful songs that fit the mood as well as the crumbling world of Unworthy. I love when a great game is complemented with a soundtrack of matching quality. So would I personally recommend Unworthy? Hell yes. If you like Metroidvania titles with a little bit of challenge and some Dark Souls flavor, you really can't go wrong here in my opinion. I love the world that has been created and the work that has been put into this game. I think it deserves to be given a lot of attention and praise. There's plenty of content here and a lot to be discovered and explored. I find the replay value to be quite high, and for the price it all seems worth it to me.